Hello and welcome to episode 179 of Learn, Do, Become Radio. My name is Alia. I am April and Eric's daughter, as well as one of the team members and coaches here at Learn, Do, Become. And I'm super excited to be here recording this little bonus podcast. We typically have a podcast a week, but as we've had a lot going on with different programs and resources, we've decided that we wanted to just share the information and let everyone know about some of the things that we've been teaching and the things that have been important to our community, and just wanted to bring you along with us on that journey of sharing things. And I'm excited to share some of the things that I talked about in this class, just talking about how I chose my Google Calendar, how I manage my digital calendar every day, how I use it so frequently. It's one of my favorite tools in my Command Central, and we'll just dive into it a little bit more. And first and foremost, if anyone is new here and not familiar with what a Command Central is or what our STEP program is all about, we have some great resources for you, as well as a free training about how to finally stop drowning in piles. And it's just the very tip of the iceberg, the very beginning of what we teach, but it's a wonderful training. And you can find information about that at learndobecome.com/step. And for anyone listening as this is going live, we are starting 4 weeks to Finished, which is our personalized group coaching program, a week from when this podcast goes live. And that's where we have personalized lessons and office hours teaching a group of students in the program how to set up a full Command Central in just 4 weeks. We have simple homework assignments and a really connected community. And if you're looking for a little bit of extra support in setting that up, we recommend checking out our page where you can find more information and or join. And you can find all of that at learndobecome.com/4weeks. So /4 weeks. And as always, we'll have our show notes page ready for you. That's going to be at learndobecome.com/episode 179. So the things I cover, the talking points, will be written there. And we'll just get started and jump right in. So in preparing for this class we had for our Step Mastery group, I put out a questionnaire in our Facebook group and asked people what questions they had about digital calendars, where their sticking points were, and what kind of things they were looking to either do or change in the way that they were using their digital calendar, or maybe not even using it at all, and just to get some ideas on how to get started. And I won't be sharing every single detail because this was a bonus for our Step Mastery group. And anyone who does join Step Mastery between now and the end of the month of January 2023, when I'm recording this, will be able to get access to the training that I did. But I'm going to be sharing just a few basic principles that I think are really helpful, especially for somebody just getting started when it comes to using a digital calendar. And the little tagline I had for the class was creating the seamless system for events, tasks, and routines within the digital calendar, because I think that's what we're all trying to manage. We have events that we're supposed to be at and routines and tasks that just seem to sometimes pile up. And sometimes it is not very fun to open the calendar app when it's not organized or it's not ready for us to use and it's not set up in a way that is most suited for us. If you ever feel like your calendar is another weight on your shoulder, opening the calendar seems stressful or scary or worrisome because you might be wondering, am I dropping the ball on something? Am I forgetting? Is the calendar going to even be updated or accurate? You're not alone. We have a lot of people in our community who felt that same way and who are looking for a little bit of additional support. So the first question I wanted to cover is, why did I choose Google Calendar? Of all the things to use as a digital calendar, why that? Why was I so passionate about that? I actually found a video from 2018. My mom recorded a little video. I think we shared it in the STEP Facebook group a long time ago. But basically, she was interviewing me and saying, why are you so excited? Tell us about your new app that you're trying out. And that app was Google Calendar. And I had previously used my Apple Calendar and a mix of doing that and a paper planner that I got in high school, just because it was what was easy and available, and some high school teachers didn't appreciate us being on our phones, even if it was for calendar purposes. So I found a way to use a hybrid system, using a paper planner for all of my homework assignments and everything else that I had to do school-wise. And then I used my Apple Calendar for things like church events or extracurriculars, volunteer opportunities, work meetings, stuff like that. But as I graduated high school and I realized, I actually have more freedom now. I don't have to use a paper planner if I don't want to. I was ready to find a system that would work for me. And that's what Google Calendar did for me. And because I use Gmail as my main email source, I found that those two connected very well together, and I was hooked from day one. So that's just what I chose. But something to point out is that for the first several months of marriage, my husband and I did not use Google Calendar together. I was a diehard Google Calendar fan. Everything was put in there, but he wanted to use a different system. And so we found a way. We just simply did a Google search and said, how do you connect an Apple Calendar that he was using with a Google Calendar that I was using? We were able to follow the step-by-step instructions, find a way to combine our calendars so that we could see well enough when each other had events and invite each other to events. And that worked for a little while. And then we decided to combine systems and use Google Calendar together. And I'll share a little bit more in the next part of this podcast about why I love being able to share things with him and use our calendar system in tandem. Okay, the next big question that we focused on in this class was, what goes on my calendar? And there are three main categories that we like to talk about in STEP, in the STEP programs, where we're teaching you how to get rid of all the piles in your everyday life to really create simple systems that are long-lasting and to help you have mental clarity so your mind isn't doing the job of your calendar or your projects list and stuff like that. So the three things that go on the calendar and that have been really like big game changer for me are events, like where does my body need to be physically or virtually. So meaning if I have a dentist appointment, that goes on the calendar. If I'm teaching an online class, that also goes on the calendar because my body needs to be somewhere either physically or virtually. And it's important to make sure that I'm not missing appointments or engagements. And, if I've promised someone I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. The next thing, number 2 out of 3, is date-specific routines. So things like paying our rent on the first of every month, or taking the trash out every Monday night, or texting a reminder to people from church every Wednesday. Those are just a couple of my date-specific routines, and I really rely on a calendar reminder for those things. If I don't have that reminder that pops up every Monday evening, the trash is not going out. And in fact, I was busy with a few things this past Monday, and my husband and I were both working on some things and totally missed that calendar reminder. It came up and it always works. It has worked forever. But because I missed it and my husband was also busy working on stuff, the trash did not go out. And thankfully it's just 2 of us, so it's not the end of the world if the trash doesn't go out. But that just goes to show that we are becoming more and more reliant on our routines and the date-specific ones especially to help give us those reminders so that we don't forget things. And while the trash isn't a very important or crucial routine, there are other routines like paying the rent that are very important, and I need to make sure that we're always on top of those, right? So we have a place to live and everything can go smoothly in that regard. Okay, so that's number 2. And number 3 is date-specific next actions. We talk about next actions a lot in our STEP program, where if you have a giant project, you can break it down into the very simplest, most easy next step to complete that project. So just something very small, like maybe I need to run an errand on a very specific day, or I need to call somebody on a specific day and time. Whenever I have next actions for projects that are date specific or date and time specific, those need to go on my calendar, as well as date specific one-time tasks. For example, we have been going to some doctor's appointments, and after the doctor appointment, I set a reminder on my calendar to call the billing office of the doctor 2 weeks after my appointment so that I can get the receipt, the itemized receipt for the appointment once the doctor has put everything into the system. And because that does take a little while, a little bit of time, I need to make sure that I have that one-time task put in my calendar, because there's a lot going on, and after 2 weeks after an appointment, I'm not very likely to remember that on my own. Another example is we're having dinner tomorrow with a group of friends or a couple from school, and I need to buy a couple ingredients that we don't have for the dinner. And usually we go shopping on like an as-needed basis. So we already did our shopping like last week, and we don't need to go shopping. We just need a couple ingredients, and we have to have them for that dinner. So that's on my calendar as a one-time task that I can check off in Google Calendar. So hopefully those examples were helpful. Events, date-specific routines, and date-specific next actions or one-time tasks. Those are the 3 things that go on my calendar. And if you're thinking, well, my calendar has a lot of other stuff too, like other reminders or like projects I don't want to forget about and things like that, that means that there isn't a place in your system yet for those items. And that's what we teach in the STEP program, where if you feel like you have all these things floating around in your mind and maybe your calendar is becoming a catch-all for those items, that's what the STEP program and the STEP system will help you to do, to make sure that you have a solid place for your projects, for your routines, and other things that don't quite belong on the calendar, but they are important to you and you want to remember them and not have them forgotten about or left behind. And really the goal is to have a clutter-free calendar. So inside of our replay that we've had for the Mastery members, there is a whole, obviously I'm screen sharing during the call, and I'm showing examples from my calendar where my calendar really isn't jam-packed. Even though my days are busy, where I have work and personal projects and other personal things going on, there's still open space within my calendar. I might have 2 or 3 scheduled events where my body has to be, or I need to be present virtually. But then other than that, I have some pretty good open blocks of time, but that doesn't mean I'm not just sitting around and I'm not just doing nothing, sitting around the house all day. It means that I have the flexibility to make sure that I'm doing my work during that time, make sure I'm making time for projects, making time for my husband, making time for rest, especially. That is a big one. And that's just what I love about having just those 3 categories of things in my calendar, because it enables me to really be able to set my day, prioritize my day, create my day, and make a plan for what I'm excited to accomplish and do. And that's just something that I focused on in the call, talking about how if there is open space in your day, there are a lot of possibilities of what can be done there. Some of our team likes to use time blocking principles to set aside time for work or projects and family and stuff like that. And that's something that I'm trying to get in a better routine and habit of as we are preparing to become parents this summer. So lots of big changes, but I'm glad I have this system in place to really help me make it to those things that I've already committed to. The next thing I wanted to talk about was creating different calendar layers for the different aspects of my life. Now in Google Calendar, it's really easy to create different layers for personal life. If I wanted to add a layer for work appointments or church stuff that I'm working on and responsible for, all of that's possible within Google Calendar. And I really like that feature because it helps me to be able to segment the different categories of my life. And it also helps me to be able to visually distinguish between things that are work-related or personal, and stuff like that. So for me, I like to color code my calendar and give each aspect of my life a color. I just like seeing a happy, colorful calendar when I open my calendar. I know that's not everyone's favorite thing to do, but either doing a colorful calendar with the different aspects of your life or different layers of the calendar, that's really helpful in making sure that you're able to distinguish the different parts of your life. And then finally, the last main point that I shared was about creating events that you can share with people and entire calendars or calendar layers that you can share with people. For example, when my husband and I had separate calendar systems, it was a little bit trickier to see his entire calendar on mine. And so we would just share specific events that were mutual events that we were both going to. But it was a little bit hard for me to know, is he at school right now or is he at work? I didn't want to call him if he's in the middle of something. And that was one of the big reasons why we decided to switch and use the same calendar system, because we just realized it is nice to be able to see each other's calendar and be able to share it fully with one another. And that's what we did a little while ago. And now I have the option to turn his calendar on as a layer on my calendar. So I can basically switch his calendar on and off, so I can turn it on. When I'm planning my day, I can see where do we overlap, where will we be at home together, or where is he going to be at school or work, and where will I be, where do I have a meeting I need to be on, do I have, whatever's planned. I'm able to see how his schedule matches up with mine. And then, because I don't want his calendar to be cluttering my calendar, not that his events are clutter, but it does add a lot of extra stuff visually to my calendar when his is turned on. And so what I like to do is, after I create a plan for the day, after I see where he's going to be and what he's up to, I'm able to just switch his calendar off, and then I'm able to just have my calendar and have it nice, but I have the option to switch it on and off as needed. And that's one of the features that I really love. And also, we talked about the feature of just sharing single events with people. So for example, if I'm going to be doing something with a friend and they want me to send them a calendar invite, it's super easy to just create an event. Like I had a walk planned with a friend. We were going to go walking at a local park. And so it would be super easy to just create that event, add my friend as one of the guests on the event, and then she would get an email saying, hey, here's the calendar information for the event you have scheduled with Alia. And that's super nice to have as a little option for helping to share your event with someone's calendar on a one-time basis, instead of having to share your entire calendar and a lot of other more like personal things. It's just that one-time event. Or for example, we were at a church activity a couple days ago, and somebody said, hey, we're having this activity 2 Fridays from now, and it's going to be at this time, and we'd love for you and your husband to be there. And I said, okay, great. And my husband wasn't at that meeting. It was just me. And so I was able to add it to my calendar and invite him and put a little note in the description letting him know what the event was and that he was invited. And then he was able to accept it and have it show up on his calendar as if it were one of his own events that he created and scheduled for himself. And he did the same thing for me today, actually. He's planning a little group date with one of his college friends and his wife. And so he just invited me to the double date that we're going to do, and I don't have to do any of the planning for it because it's on my calendar, it's ready to go, and the two of them are coordinating and making that possible. And now it just shows up on my calendar, so I know to keep that evening free, and it will all work out. So that is pretty much the main principles that we covered, just covering what is going to be on our calendar, how do we keep our calendar as streamlined and clutter-free as possible, so that we're only really truly keeping those date-specific things on our calendar, and that anything else that we think might go on our calendar is actually better suited for either our projects list or our routines list or another part of our command central. And so just wanted to share those principles with you, share those ideas. So if you're looking for a couple ideas on how to get started with your digital calendar to just keep it simple and make sure that your calendar is that's functioning for you. And if there's anything that you're thinking about in terms of a routine for a calendar, maybe it's your calendar isn't being checked every single day. Maybe the calendar isn't even being updated once a week or as needed when things come in. So that's what we extended as an invitation to the mastery group today during this call is if you don't have a routine yet for your calendar, that's probably one of the top things to create is create a routine for checking in every morning or every night. Or for me, I love to check it multiple times a day. I have it on my phone and it's just really easy to open and double check. And then to also make sure that I'm doing that weekly management of the calendar and updating it so that I'm ready for the week ahead and I feel confident in everything that's there. So hope those principles were helpful to you. And again, all that is going to be on our show notes page, just as little bullet points as an outline at learndobecome.com/episode 179. And then, as I said at the beginning of this episode, this replay of the Google Calendar call or digital calendar call is available to all of our Step Mastery members and for all new Mastery members that join by the end of January 2023. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you're not only interested in the replay of this class, and we had some amazing community conversations, Q&A, feedback at the end of it. It was a really great call, and we had lots of engagement with our team and members of the Step Mastery program. But if that's something that you're interested in, you can sign up for our webinar at learndobecome.com/step to learn more about that program. And additionally, if you are interested in our 4 Weeks to Finish program, which is the group coaching that is personalized, focused on you, taught by our team with office hours and simple homework assignments that will help the command central be built within those 4 weeks, you are also invited to join us there. And we're so excited to be starting in just a week. And also for anyone that joins 4 Weeks to Finished, you are automatically given Step Mastery program access because we are pulling from the principles in the STEP program. We're just adding additional coaching and additional support to the existing resources inside that program. So if you are interested in joining us, you can find all the information at learndobecome.com/4 weeks. And all that information will be on the show notes page. And on that /4 weeks page, we also have an option for you to schedule a call with our team. So if you want to ask questions about the programs or find out what the best fit is for you, you'll find all of that information on the page. And we've loved being able to get in touch with community members and have more one-on-one personal calls to help decide what is the next best step for you in your current situation. So thank you so much for listening. I wish you all the best in setting up your digital calendar. And one thing I didn't cover that is more mentioned inside the replay is about how to have a combination of both systems, how it's not necessary to have a totally digital calendar, and it's not even necessary to have a digital calendar if paper is working best for you. There are ways to do combination systems or do bits and pieces of one or the other. It's totally up to you. And that's the beauty of creating this kind of system, is that it's so able to be personalized and it's very unique to you and your own needs. So anyways, hope you enjoyed, and we will see you on the next episode.